Hey everyone, welcome back to the Comeback Collective. It is episode 5. I'm your host, Rebecca Shaw, and I'm here today with one of my favorite people, Christina Pann. She is a holistic nutritionist. We've been friends for 10, 12 years, 15 years maybe, I don't even know. And I'm excited to introduce you to her and have her on the show. So let's give her a welcome. Welcome everyone, this is Christina. Say hello, it's a little virtual.
Hi.
Hello. So we're gonna go through just some questions. I'm gonna do mostly listening. I want you to do all the talking.
Okay, so guide me in case I go on a tangent though.
Oh yeah, for sure. So, okay, Christina, go ahead and just give us a little introduction of who you are, what you do, where you're at.
Thank you. So I'm a functional nutritionist by trade. I've been doing that for about 13 years and
Yes.
I love it.
That's how long we've known each other.
Yeah.
Because you helped me with all my health stuff when you first started
And
school.
we
So it was 13 years ago.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's been a minute for sure. And I love it. I'm super passionate about it. It's kind of one of the silver linings that came out of a really dark time in my life, which we'll get into.
Yes.
And I'm also a homeschool mom. I have an 8-year-old daughter named Sienna. Our children know each other,
Yes.
went to preschool
Yes.
together. And I'm a police wife. I love matcha. I love chihuahuas.
Hence the green
Oh yeah, I was going for matcha
green.
aesthetic in here. And I'm super excited to be on your podcast.
Thank you. I'm so glad. Thank you for having me. Okay, we're just gonna dive in. Some of these questions, they might be a little intense. So
Let's go.
slight trigger warning on the episode.
Yeah.
Can you take us back to a moment when you were diagnosed with cervical cancer? What was life like for you then, and how did you process that news?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I was 25, so I was very young, and I was about a month and a half out from getting married. So life was good. Like, I was so excited, marrying my high school sweetheart, literally putting finishing touches on my centerpieces at my wedding. And I went in for a routine pap smear without an inkling that anything was wrong. And I left that appointment really scared because my doctor was just looking at me all kinds of sideways and like, something doesn't seem right here, I'm not sure what. About a week later, I got my biopsy results and found out I had cervical cancer at 25. So found out I had cervical cancer at 25, about a month and a half before I was to be married. And my whole world just completely shattered. At a point of initial diagnosis, I didn't know what the road ahead would look like for me. It took a couple days to see a specialist and figure out what that meant for me. And so I found out that it was stage 2, because I had heard, honestly, I knew a couple friends from high school who also had cervical cancer. They got a little scrape done and they were like good to go.
Yeah.
So I knew there were varying degrees of what that could mean for me. And of course I was hoping that it would be the less invasive, easier route. I mean, there's no easy cancer diagnosis.
Right.
But unfortunately it wasn't. It had spread enough to where it was inoperable and I was gonna need chemo and radiation. And that alone is like, you're faced with your mortality at such a young age. There was the wedding, there was all of these things that completely knocked me on my face. But then there was this whole other layer in finding out that I would also lose my fertility because of my treatments that I was receiving, which was just like, it was a lot to process.
Oh, I appreciate you sharing that, all of it,
Yeah.
all of that with us. So it kind of leads me to my next question. You half answered it. How did your diagnosis affect your relationship and your upcoming marriage at the time?
Yeah, another really good question. Looking back, you think 25, that's not that young. We were young. We were so young.
Yeah.
And so Ryan was, honestly, he was, and of course he's my husband, I want to talk him up, but truly he was my rock. Like, he handled it as good as I think any young, newly married man could handle a situation like that. But it stole a lot from us. I think a lot of times we go through trials and like, we want to always find the good and like, I wouldn't change. I'm like, no, that freaking sucked. Like, it just sucked. So instead of being newly married and exploring each other and going on a honeymoon and all the things, it was 2 days after my wedding. It was supposed to be the day after my wedding. I would go straight in for treatments. But thankfully, the day after our wedding was a holiday. It was Labor Day or Memorial Day, I don't remember. And so I got 1 day to be married before my body got torn to shreds. And so it was 2 days after, we're going to chemo and we're going to radiation. And so there was no newlywed phase
Right.
for us. We were thrown straight into the trenches. But if I am trying to find a positive, it really kind of brought us to a level of closeness and intimacy that sometimes it takes, marriages 10, 15 years to attain, because there is something about walking through fire with somebody, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it stole a lot from us.
And then you guys waited until you were married.
We were.
And do you
did.
Do you even kiss before you were married?
So we knew each other in high school,
Yes.
so we kissed like years ago, but
Okay.
as far as like as adults dating, we didn't kiss. Like,
Okay, I remember that from like back in the day. It was
and
like,
so that felt like a slap in the face, because obviously like this whole area was going through a lot.
Yeah.
And so to keep it super real, like we were still able to like be intimate on our wedding night. That was all amazing and great. But after that, it was like there wasn't a whole lot of anything going on, because I was literally getting radiated in my cervix area.
Right.
And so even that, and it felt like such a slap in the face to like just try and take this road of purity.
Right.
And
you did all this work, all the right things.
For sure. And then you're like, well, damn. Like, and there's redemption, and thankfully, I sit here today cancer-free, and there was a lot of time to make up for that.
Right.
But there's something special about that. Even that first year.
No, for sure. I appreciate you sharing that with us. Let's see. My next question that I had for you, what are some of the hardest conversations you and your husband had to have in those early days?
Yeah. So honestly, a lot of it was him caring for me and my emotions, and that later came and kind of bit us in the butt.
Mm-hmm.
He just was trying to be strong for me the whole time, which I'm so grateful, because I needed it. But there wasn't a lot of him checking in with himself. Like, how do I feel about us losing our fertility? Like, how do I feel about not being able to go on a honeymoon? And not being able to share this, like, really intimate, spicy, newlywed season. It was all like, I gotta focus on Christina. And so a lot of our conversations were just built around, like, him just sustaining me and trying to keep me afloat. But later on, the hard conversations come, because as we know, if you don't deal with stuff, it doesn't just go away. It resurfaces, right? Like it comes. And so the hard conversations came later of like, whoa, like I'm not okay. And like I didn't care for myself. I didn't feel cared for. I didn't feel seen in that season. And all of a sudden I've got all of this old trauma festering.
Right.
And so it all had to be dealt with eventually. And it did. Thankfully we were able to like walk through that together.
Perfect. I appreciate you sharing that with us. Okay, so let's see. My next question is, when did the idea of IVF and surrogacy first come up, and then what emotions did that journey bring out?
Yeah.
And
So while I was going through treatments, it was just fully survival. Like it was awful. It was like and at that time I wasn't in the field that I'm in now. I didn't know a whole lot about alternative care. And we have to think, this definitely ages me, but when I was 25, 14 years ago, social media was just starting to pop off. Like there wasn't all of this access to information, and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there were like a handful of like paleo bloggers who all made cookbooks that were at Costco, and that was about it.
These days, I'm like, I follow 50 clinics and alternative therapies for whatever. So access to information was definitely more limited, and even not just for how I could have cared for myself in that time physically, but emotionally. Like now, trauma is like, it's a word that we use daily. We understand it. We understand the repercussions of going through traumatic events. We understand PTSD. It was not like that then. So I sort of just expected myself to like go through cancer, go through treatments, and just bounce back and re-enter my life the way that it had always been. And it did not happen like that, which that's a whole other thing. As far as the IVF surrogacy thing, I was just trying to survive. It was something I literally had to bury because I knew if I even like opened that wound and really looked at it for what it was, I literally was like, this will swallow me whole and it will kill me. And so there were moments throughout going through treatments where I would just peek at it. I would like crack the door and I would just be wrecked. And it was hard. It was very isolating because number one, I was very young. And number two, I didn't know anyone who had gone through infertility.
Yeah.
And again, these days, there's a million Facebook groups and like there's
Right.
ways to connect with people outside of your community who have had experiences like that. None of that really existed, at least that I knew of then.
Yeah.
So I felt like I was literally on an island. And I had my husband, but even he couldn't truly understand what it was like to have, as a woman, to have your fertility taken from you.
Right.
So there were times where I would just collapse and just grieve. Like I felt literally like a woman from biblical times, just like pounding my fist in the dust, just like I felt cursed. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I remember literally feeling like I have no one. But then I had these like women in the Bible who they were the only people I knew who had struggled the way that I was struggling and who had felt cursed and like an outcast, like as a woman. And so I would literally feel like there was like Hannah and Sarah, like they would be like beside me.
Aww.
It was like I would have these like really spiritual experiences where I would feel comforted by these like women of old. It was really interesting. But other than that, I couldn't look at it. So it wasn't until about a year after treatments, I was cancer free, and we started to think like, okay, like what's this gonna look like for us?
And then were you living in California when you were going through treatments, or had you already moved to the East Coast?
So we did all of our treatments here in California, and then we moved to the East Coast about 6 months after I had finished treatments.
Okay.
Yeah. And so when we lived on the East Coast, that's when we started to really think like, how are we gonna do this? What's this gonna look like? And again, so young, we're like, surrogacy, what? Like, how does this even work?
Right.
We had no knowledge. It was a whole learning curve to figure out how we were gonna grow our family.
Right.
For sure.
Okay, that's all coming back.
Yeah.
We're watching all of it from a distance.
Wild.
Okay, so my next question, and this is kind of the last, kind of wrapping up your past, and we're gonna move on to your present.
Love it.
What was it like watching someone else carry your baby, and how did you prepare yourself emotionally for that experience?
Yeah, this is gonna be so different for everybody. I was so blessed with our carrier. She's also a friend. She's someone I met. My husband was in the military at the time. She was another military wife. Our husbands worked together. And at that point, I was like, I need someone to carry my baby. Like the most vulnerable thing as a woman, like I can't do this on my own. But at that time, like I stand here today, like sharing my story with you, healed, I've processed so much, but then it was the most raw and vulnerable thing for me. Like I had a hard time even being in groups of women. Like I literally felt like I had the word barren like written across my forehead. And so it wasn't like I was out there talking like, hey, I need someone to carry my baby.
Yeah.
Like there was a very few people who even knew. I think our whole community knew I had cervical cancer, but very few people knew how it had impacted my fertility because that was the womb that was like really fresh. And so I kept being like, God, like, how are you going to provide someone to carry my baby when no one even knows it's a need? And then on top of that, everyone I knew was across the country. We had moved. So I was like, I'm in a conundrum. And I remember there'd be late nights and I'd be like searching surrogacy websites, just weeping. Number one, because it's like $100,000. And we're like newly married, like, you know, fairly broke. And also I just had such an unsettling feeling like this is not our journey. It's not, but waiting is hard, especially when having kids is supposed to be something that's just so much in your control that you can plan for. And you even hear people, I'm going to time them this much apart, and I want a boy, and all these things.
Yeah. Or there's all the people who got pregnant not planning at all. With some random dude that they met at the bar.
So happy for you. But for me, I was like, this is so out of my control.
Yeah.
And so God in his faithfulness connected us to this family. And another thing that I had asked God is like, I don't want to have to ask somebody again, like just putting myself out there at a degree that I was not comfortable with at the time. Like, hey, will you carry my baby? Like, I want someone to like come to me. Like, I want them to feel called to this. And it all happened like verbatim. Jess, we took a long car ride to go visit our husbands one time, and she was one of the very few people I had opened up to and like just shared my whole story. And I don't know, weeks or months later, who knows, she approached me and was like, hey, I hope this isn't like strange or weird. If it is, I'm so sorry, because you don't really know how to approach this. But like basically like, if you'll have me, I'll do it.
Aw, that's so sweet.
It was a Facebook message, which I screenshotted. I still have somewhere.
Aww.
And I was like, what? Because she's perfect. Like, me and Ryan, before she had even mentioned a word, we were like, whoa, what if, I don't think she would mind me saying her name, what if Jess did it? Like, she would be perfect.
Yeah.
Like, and she felt kind of a nudge on her heart to do it. And we were thrilled. We were so excited.
That's amazing. I know. I still have like a memory of you guys being in your trailer.
Mm-hmm.
You just gotten back.
Yeah.
You just traveled back with your daughter, and I remember I went over to visit, and I had Liam, and I like nursed her, and brought you breast milk, and I was like, oh my gosh,
dinner.
So
I feel like I remember
brought you dinner.
It was like steak and like grilled veggies.
Yes, I think it was chicken, because I remember Ryan just like scarfing it down as I was sitting there like feeding your baby, and you guys are both eating.
Blessing.
And Liam's like crawling around on the floor.
Such a blessing.
And then I remember later being like, oh my god, I can't believe they let me bring my toddler around their brand new baby.
Hey, when you go through that much life, you're just like, the small things don't stress you.
Well, good, because I didn't know any better, and then like later when you have like other people started having second kids, and they're like, please no children. I was like, oh god, like.
Oh gosh, no. There's a level of control you have to release when another woman's carrying your baby.
Yeah, I'm
and
sure.
a lot of people ask me like, because she's from like the South, grew up drinking green tea. At that point, I had started studying nutrition. I completely revamped my life. I was no longer addicted to Diet Coke and protein deficient vegetarian.
Right.
And so I was very gung-ho about my lifestyle. And everyone's like, are you going to ask her to just eat organic and be gluten-free? And I was like, nah, girl, I can't.
Yeah.
Like, you just got to release and trust that, like, she's the vessel that was chosen to carry our baby and everything's going to be fine.
Right.
You know? So she was living her life. I'm sure she did everything she needed to do.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know? And so already before my child was born, I'm like, I had to release a level of control,
I feel that. Yeah. After Liam's birth went from a home birth to a C-section, that was where I was like, oh, I'm not in control of anything.
Totally.
And it like changed me.
I think we are, but yeah.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate you sharing all of that with us. Okay, so present, motherhood, business, homeschooling, daily life.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to touch on.
Love it.
So now you're a mom, you're a business owner, you homeschool. How do you juggle all of those things on a daily basis?
Yeah, so I think that one of the biggest things is when it comes to my business is just really pacing myself. I feel like we're similar in the way of like, we love the hustle, like we are go-getters, we're type A. And so it's been a lot of push and pull of just understanding my season and just scaling back when I need to based on like where Sienna is at. In her homeschool journey and developmentally and everything. So a lot of trial and error, but we're doing it. We're making it work. Nice. And it helps when it's something you love to do.
Oh, for sure. It's not like a chore or a task.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right. Love that. Okay. Let's see. What motivated... Let me start over. I don't want to check the time. Are we good?
Totally. If you can end up taking her if need be, so don't feel rushed.
No, I think we're okay, but I just was like between the traffic and then
everything. For sure. So, no worries.
Okay. And I wanted to like check the time. I want to make sure we're still recording, and I didn't look over and it's like CF card full or something stupid. Okay. My next question for you is, what was your motivation behind starting your business, and what was the hardest part about getting it off the ground?
Yes. So my motivation was definitely getting cancer as a young adult, for sure. And I feel like this is like when I think about my comeback story, which I just love the premise of this podcast because I feel like everybody loves a good comeback story. And not only that, but I think people who are still in the trenches like need to know it's possible.
Right.
You know, that a comeback is possible, you know, and that theirs is coming. And I'd say my biggest comeback was coming back from being in a place of complete disdain for my body. Like no trust, no confidence, resentment. Because I'm like, you fully betray me.
Right, yeah.
You know, like during what was supposed to be the happiest time of my life, like you let me down.
Right.
You know? And so there was a long time where I just did not trust my body. And there was a lot of healing and a lot of therapy. And I'm still healing, truly. It's been 14 years. I'm still healing from that season.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of variables, but holistic nutrition was one of the things that helped me heal from this lack of trust, because for the first time I realized like, oh no, like I am empowered. There actually are decisions that I can make on a daily basis from what I put in my mouth to the relationships that I keep, that can build resilience in my body and hopefully keep this from happening again.
Yeah.
Because when you're diagnosed with cancer, you feel so powerless. Like, you feel like your power has just been stripped from you. But learning how to nourish my body just gave me a sense of power back. And there's always the unknowns and there's the mystery and things happen. But it helped me to trust my body again and trust my intuition again. And so I'm forever grateful for holistic nutrition and for this work and the path of healing it led me down, and also the redemptive aspect of getting to help so many other people heal. That's definitely been a silver lining, because I truly don't think I would have found this work if it wasn't for that, catastrophe in my life.
I feel like we all kind of gone that route. Like me being diagnosed with celiac and SIBO kind of like took me down that path of like going to school for holistic nutrition. And,
I feel like most healers, they've got a story that led them there.
Yes. How do I explain this? I was struggling working with people who didn't want to make lifestyle changes, so you have more power to you. I'm like, I can't.
No, it's very real. It's very real. I think the longer I've been in the biz, the less tolerance you have for people who just aren't ready. Yeah. It's like, hey, come back when you're ready, man.
Right. And I think I was maybe not at a place to be helping people, even though I thought I was, because I had no patience for that. And so I think I was like, this is not the right season for me.
It is tough. So, 100%.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing all that with us. Okay, homeschooling is not a small feat. What made you decide to go that route, and what has surprised you the most about it?
Yeah, I feel like a couple things. I think one of them is just going back to the fertility journey. She was our one golden egg. It was incredibly difficult to get her here on so many different fronts, financially, emotionally, physically, the treatments I had to go through, and there were surgeries and countless needles. And we did try and have another baby. It didn't work out for us. And I was like, man, I got one shot at this. Yeah. And I was like, I just want to be able to spend as much time with her as I can. And it's definitely not a journey for everybody. Another thing is just my husband's schedule. Yeah. It's always switching. A lot of times he's working weekends, so if she were to go to traditional school, they would be like ships in the night. Right. They'd never see each other. Yeah. And I think the freedom too. I just really enjoy being able to do what I want when I want.
Yes. I know it's fun watching your guys' excursions and things like that.
It's fun to not have to like work around school schedules, but of course it's also difficult. It's not for everybody, for sure. And I have days where I'm like, I don't know about this. Yeah. But we like it. It works for our family.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us. Okay, let's see. Do you feel the weight of your past health journey in your current day-to-day life, or do you feel like you've stepped into a new chapter? I know you kind of already touched on that a little bit.
That's good. In so many ways, 100%. I feel I love my body again. I trust it, and I think I'm learning to trust it more and more every day. And I feel like the trauma that I once held in my body so intensely for years that made me feel like a different person that I didn't know. Like, I looked in the mirror and I'm like, I was someone completely different 6 months ago. It was like all of a sudden, like, you like got sent to war, got beaten, battered, and you're a completely different person. You're like, I don't even know who you are, you know? So in so many ways, I feel like I've healed and I've come back to myself, and not in the way of like, oh, I'm who I was before cancer, because the reality is like we'll never be who we were before trauma. Like, we've changed, but I've grown to love the new version of myself. But the reality is, I think all of us, I shouldn't say all of us, I can only speak for my journey, but I'll always carry that trauma with me. And it definitely it affects the way I see life, the way I see the world. The way that I experience relationships, even. Pregnancy announcements are still hard. Oh, sure, yeah. They probably will be even when I'm 70. Yeah. When that season of life is long and gone. Yeah. But I don't think it's a bad thing. I think that there's just so much duality in life. Like, I hold the gratitude for the life I have, for my daughter, for being healed, alongside of the grief of like, damn, like that freaking sucked. Yeah. And I did lose my ability to carry pregnancy. There was so many iconic moments that you dream about as a married couple that, that we lost. Yeah. So I think I carry both, even on the daily still. Yeah.
I feel that. I appreciate you
Right?
sharing that with us.
Yeah,
That resonates with me a lot.
You feel it.
Yeah, I feel it. Every time you say something, I get like the chills through my whole body.
Trauma is so multifaceted.
Yeah, no, 100%. Okay, we've got one more question in your present, and then we're going to move on to your future.
Love it.
Let's see. What are some things you do now to care for yourself physically, emotionally, mental health, and everything you've been through?
Yeah. On a practical level, just like eating nourishing food, keeping my blood sugar stable, and staying hydrated. All the really practical things I think most of us know to do. But on a more complex level, I think it's embracing my story. I think for so long, I hated that part of my story. I hated that chapter.
Yeah.
I wanted to disconnect from it. There's a lot of people who go through cancer and they're like running the relay for life, and they're like, I'm a survivor, and they'll get the tattoo, like the little ribbon. I was the opposite. I was like, I don't want to be associated with it. I'm not there. You won't catch me at some relay for life. Because to me, and I hope that if anyone's listening to this who's experienced cancer, you know my heart, but I associated it with weakness. I associated it with my body failing, and especially being so young. And healing from that was it was definitely a process for sure. And being able to really truly embrace my story, and not just embrace it, but hold it with compassion and look back on that version of myself that walked through that and be like, wow, girl, I just want to you went through that. That's really hard. And not shame myself for the way that it's affected me even to this day. Yeah. Because I wasn't someone who struggled with anxiety and panic and all the things that I experienced post-cancer, and there was a lot of shame that came with that. Yeah. And so being able to heal from that and really embrace my story has been really a really big part of my healing. And then also just a big thing has been just being totally okay with my boundaries. There's a lot of things that feel triggering for me that maybe wouldn't have been, whether it's a baby shower, whether it's just a time where I feel overstimulated because I am still healing my nervous system. And I used to just feel like I have to perform. You just go, just push through, white knuckle it. And now I'm no, period. And I don't even need to give a reason. I just can't go. Yeah. I'm just not going. It's taken a while to get to that point, but it's been big in my healing journey for sure. Yeah. No, boundaries. Yeah. And I love that you, as soon as I announced I had a podcast, you were one of the first people that was I want to be on it. And I was yes, please. It's such a good, I just love the premise of it. Yeah. I really do. What I feel really idea. Speaks to you, where you're at in your healing journey, because you were I want to be on it. I didn't come to you and be oh, let me think about it. And right. No, I want to be on the show. So I feel it is so real. Something for you to think. Going from, remind yourself, again, you put yourself out there. The comeback, right? Yeah. Of going from at one point being I don't even want anyone to know I had cancer, to where I am so grateful. I'm at a point where if one I want to share my story. If one person that was where I was and that feels completely isolated and alone, here's my story and it's oh damn, I'm not the only young woman who can't carry a pregnancy or walking through cancer, or even just going through a crazy dark night of the soul, So I appreciate that. Yeah. It does feel very redemptive to be able to sit here and talk about it. That's amazing. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're here with us. Okay, so we're moving on to your dreams, your mindset, possibilities. So do you and your husband still hope to expand your family? Or are you feeling at peace where things are at? Yeah, so as I mentioned, we did try to take that journey again, which we never thought we would do. We never thought we'd be able to do financially, even just physically, the toll it took. But several years ago, I just felt this very clear desire and leading to be no, let's do this again. And we were so fortunate to get a healthy embryo and have a pregnancy. We did end up losing the baby. Another friend had carried for us, and it was really devastating. It was hard. We really wanted another baby. It was a little boy. We named him Silas. I think I remember that. I was it was a boy. Tough. It was tough. And every miscarriage is so horrible and devastating, 100%. I think having a miscarriage without the hope of a rainbow baby, of well, that was it. Yeah. It's just hard. It feels so you know, wow, book's closed. Because financially it's just hard to do it again. Like it's so insane trying to get embryos, especially as someone who, because of the treatments I've been through, my egg count is just lower than it would be for another woman my age. And so I would say at this point it would take some sort of divine situation for us to take that journey again. But I will say things are sort of changing as far as like policies and stuff. And apparently in California, fertility treatments are perhaps going to be covered.
Oh yeah, I remember
sometime in the next coming months.
Happening.
So
how did that feel when that announcement went out?
It was honestly like so happy for everyone able to take advantage of that. Totally.
Punch to the gut.
It was a punch to the gut. Because I was like, wow, that would have been nice. Like we wouldn't have had to like sell our house and like live in an RV and like spend all of our life savings like trying to have a baby. And not just that too, but it really determined the size of our family, because it was like I would have kept going, gotten more embryos when I was young, had better egg quality, but it was like we were tapped in debt. So it really determined how many children we were able to have even. So with that being said, you know, for the last few years, I've in my heart and head been like, oh, it's over. Like it's, you know, I think when you're young, you can play around with money. Well, we'll just go at 80 grand in debt to have a baby. But once, like, I mean, we're late 30s now, like, we can't be messing around like we did.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So, but with things being covered, you know, who knows? It's a door that I would have to, like, completely reopen and just sort of see, like, kind of where God leads us.
Right.
I'm 39 now, so I don't even know what I could produce, you know, as far as my egg quality and all of that goes. But who knows? TBD.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate you answering that question for us. Let's see. Looking ahead, what's something you're dreaming about, either professionally or personally?
Yes. So one kind of consequence of going through severe trauma is just a lot of nervous system dysregulation. And prior to going through cancer, travel was a huge part of my life. Even from when I was like a little girl, I would like pack a backpack, and I was very unsupervised. I'd be like 12 years old, and I would pack overnight stuff, and I would literally just go walking, and I'd be like, I don't know where I'm going to end up tonight. I would pretend I was vagabonding.
Oh my gosh.
It was just such a passion of mine, and all through my 20s, like I traveled the world and got to see so many places, and it was one of the things that made me feel the most alive.
Yeah.
And after cancer, I was so dysregulated, even things like the idea of just like being spontaneous and traveling and airplane rides became much more difficult. It was like that was kind of taken from me. I just felt like I didn't really have the capacity for that much stimulation. But I'm continually evolving and healing, and so I'm starting to just dream about trips again that felt too overwhelming to take in the past years. And so that's something that I'm feeling really excited about.
Nice. That's
it's
exciting.
just that part of me like being able to come alive again.
Yeah.
So starting small, you know, just booking some stateside trips, but eventually just like dreaming of going to Europe and things like that with my family.
Aww.
Yeah, it feels really exciting.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Okay. What lessons do you hope to pass on to your daughter as she grows up watching you walk through all of everything that you've gone through?
Yeah, that's so good. I think one thing that I just hope she knows is just how badly she was wanted and how much we fought for her.
Yeah.
And you know, just how sacred her life is. I feel like on every front, we were not supposed to have a child. Like the odds were so stacked against us. It was really like all the stars had to align for her to come into this world. So I hope she carries that, and just knowing that like her life has a purpose and that we fought for her really hard. And then on top of that, I just hope that she just is gentle with herself, you know. I was so hard on myself and everything I went through. I just I wanted to be able to do everything and do it perfect and do it the right way and come back and bounce back, and I think, you know, a lot of that comes with just culture. Yeah. Even just like with women in pregnancy, there's like the bounce back culture, you know? Yeah. Everything, we're supposed to like go through something hard and just get right back in line to where we were. And so I hope that over the years she's just seen my healing journey, and we're very open. She sees me cry. She knows what I went through. She knows her birth story, and just the hardship that we went through. Like, she knows it. I think she understands it on a really mature level. And so, yeah, I hope that, you know, whatever she walks through in life, she can do it with a lot of compassion for herself. You know?
No, that's great. And she turned 8 in April?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
My memory. Sometimes I'm like, how do I remember when people were born?
It's impressive.
I think maybe because my birthday's in April, I just always remembered. And yours is in May.
Yes.
Like right after mine.
Good.
Okay, so last question I have for you is, let me start over. How has your definition of success changed over the years?
Wow, that's so good. Definitely, I'd say, you know, back in the day, your definition of success is kind of just like picture perfect life, you make good money, you know, you're able to afford to go on trips and just be comfortable. Now, 100%, after walking through what I have, like my definition of success is like peace, point blank, period. And I don't say this lightly, like I would give up everything I had in exchange for peace because I know what it's like to live without it.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that is worth more than feeling safe in your body, feeling safe in your environment, feeling regulated. I mean, yeah. And even when I look at my days, like on a micro level, like my definition of success on a day-to-day basis is like, how regulated was I today?
Yeah,
like, was my nervous system
I need to start doing that. My therapist would appreciate it, I'm sure.
Right, like not how productive was I, like how much things did I check off my list, like was I present in my body today?
Yeah.
Like, and if I was, that's a successful day, even if I didn't get anything done.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that. That's something I'm gonna take home.
It's so real, and it's a constant struggle because again, I think we're the same in that way. It's like I love being productive. Like, I love checking things off. It just fuels me, but a lot of times it's at the expense of my peace, and I get dysregulated very easily.
Yes.
So that's success for me, baby. If I can just like be at ease in my body.
I love that. I appreciate you sharing that.
Love it.
I appreciate you sharing that.
Of course.
And I'm so glad you were on the podcast. I'll give you a
Thank
little
you
hug
for
just being so vulnerable.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. That wraps up this episode of the Comeback Collective. I would love to have Christina on again and focus more on the holistic nutrition portion. So if you guys have questions or you have topics you want us to cover, please leave them in the comment section so she can be prepared. And then Christina, just let everyone know where they can find you.
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at Science and Soul. And that's pretty much the only platform that I am on regularly. And then my website,
one word, no.
Science_soul. Thank you. And then my website is scienceandsoul.us.
Okay. Yeah. And then you see most of your clients online?
Virtually, yeah. So my practice is 100% virtual. So I do work with clients all over the country. We do a lot of functional lab testing and really comprehensive protocols for everything from hormone imbalances, autoimmunity, gut health, all the things.
I love that.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you again for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. And we'll catch everyone next time. See you
Bye.
later. Love you. Bye.